Tell me something. How long you been trying to take these guys down?
16 years.
16 years? Oh, it's a long time to be failing.
G'day guys, back at the Outer Circle, and now we're going to continue on straight after the Legiones Astartes. We're going to go straight into the Liber Mechanicum and Liber Imperialis, Liber Imperium, whichever one they decide the name is today. So Liber Mechanicum changes, obviously, in magenta, and we have, what, two things. So, add the following bullet point to this unit type. A model with the mechanized unit subtype is affected by the Haywire, Detonation, Armorbane, and Battlesmith X special rules as if it had the Dreadnought unit type, and this is to be added to the Armiger. However, the Armiger is not a mechanized subtype, so you've just added a paragraph, which means nothing. And can a Paragon unit subtype make reactions? No, which is a big nerf to the Paragon of Metal units, because one of the big things people would do was you shoot at something like a Thanatar Calyx with its giant Uber las cannon, and it would pump some shots of return fire at you, which were pretty bad for your day. And they had precision shots, which were also really bad for your day, because they would do things like snipe out your characters. So kind of a substantial nerf, that one. One of many substantial nerfs we really haven't spoken about. We've sort of just hinted at so far. Now, the Liber Imperium, the Night Vestal Covenant, changed the save characteristic to 3+, which is fine. The Karen Patton Inquisitor may exchange its Helion Heavy Cannon Array for a hull front-mounted multi-melter for no additional points cost. I don't know if that's worth it. I'll take the win. Free is still better than paying points. Page 58, the Pursuer Cadre, changed the first line of the third bullet point to any Pursuer or Pursuer Mistress model in the unit may exchange their close combat weapon for an... Oh, okay, that's it. Just they slightly retweaked the wording, but not given us the rest of the entry for context. Page 61, the Subjugated Cadre. Add the following to this unit's war gear. Frag grenades, crack grenades. Yep, that's fine. Change this unit's unit types to Subjugators, Cavalry, Anti-Grav, Skirmish, Light, Anathema, and the Subjugated Mistress to the same types, but with Light and Character. Well, they both have Light. Skirmish is good in that you get to spread out more, but Light and Anti-Grav are two conflicting unit types. So, yeah, enjoy that. The Solar Auxilia Lehman Russ Strike Squadron. Change the first option in the second bullet point to Turret-Mounted Gravis Las Cannon for free, and change the second option in the second bullet point to Turret-Mounted Gravis Auto Cannon for free. Yeah, because there was a rewording in there originally where it was basically giving you two of each weapon in the turret, not a single one, which is obviously an issue. The Anathema subtype, add the following to the end of the third bullet point, in addition to the leadership characteristic of a model with the Anathema unit type, can only be used for a leadership test or morale check if all models in that unit have the Anathema unit subtype. So if you've got a Custode or something like that in the unit, or, Nathaniel Garrow's tagging along, whatever it might be, then you don't get to use that leadership characteristic. Youch. But overall, no big changes here. And you know what? I'm not shocked, because I'm seeing a big pattern here between these and the Marine ones we've just been looking at, which for you guys will be 24 hours apart. But basically, if it's in the black books, they don't want to touch it. I can't think of a single thing that they've changed that's in printed form. They're afraid to change it. And that's why they're not changing the things that desperately need fixing in these books. All of these FAQs, the big things they're tackling are the PDF documents. the Legacies of the Age of Darkness units, and the Exemplary Battles in the Age of Darkness stuff, the printed stuff gets 1-2 questions answered. Of course, it makes so much more sense now. I shouldn't have gone off on my big rant in the last video I just did, which again, for you guys, is going to be 24 hours apart. No, what's happening here is that they don't want to touch what they've made wrong in those books. Instead, they'll just tweak the pages that are very easy to change because they're digital files online. They don't want to have to go back through and redo those black books. Those black books that are already, by the way, different in print form from country to country, just as you've seen with the Legions Imperialis release. The epic 8mm 30K that just dropped, or it started to drop onto the world. That there has different rules in different versions, whether you have a print version, whether you have a digital version online, whether you're using the cards, whatever it might be. So if it's printed, they don't want to touch it. No wonder they're not FAQing this stuff. It makes so much more sense now that I think about it. Because then you're going to have this conflict of, well, it's printed, but then what's the book really worth if they're going to change the book? Well, in my opinion, you printed the book wrong. You may as well try and fix it. But this makes so much more sense to me just looking at it now. Yeah, you pricks, you lazy pricks. Yeah. How about this for an idea? Update the printed version. You know, stop printing copies of the old version. When you do a new run, actually rework it, print that new run with the updated rules and FAQs built into it. Or when people do buy these hardbacks, give us a digital copy that links up to a living document online, and that living document online updates. We get to keep the older versions, so we can go back to them if we need to reference something, but it updates so that everyone who owns it has a free digital copy. Then they can't complain that you're ruining their precious physical copy that they have, because they'll always have that physical copy and can always go back to it whenever they like, but the rules are being updated for them. That's what needs to happen here. That's clearly what has to happen here, so that we can actually get this game back on track. Because there are a multitude of issues at the moment in the core game. One of the biggest ones I refer to is things like movement values, for example, that were added in the previous edition, and how you have an entire game that for decades was based on, and I mean literal decades, 6 inches of movement, with all weapons ranges being multiples of that 6, all vehicle movement ranges being multiples of that 6, all weapons with any sort of scatter or anything like that being multiples of D6, which again is a multiple of a 6. And anything that you roll on units, like you want a sweeping advance, that's D6 rolls right there. Moving through difficult terrain is D6 rolls. Everything was based on 6. And they've moved a bunch of stuff to movement 7, movement 14, all this kind of thing. And it used to take you 4 turns to cross the battlefield. It was 1 turn from your deployment zone is 12 inches wide, no man's land is 24 inches. So that's 4 turns of 6 inches to get from the edge of your deployment zone to the edge of the other deployment zone without, using a thing like running. Now, you move 7 inches. Well, you're 50% closer in turn 3 than you would have been. You're 3 inches closer. Now you're in charge distance with a decent roll. And again, that's assuming you didn't run in turn 1 and 2. Because if you ran in turns 1 and 2, you're far closer. And so things like that had fundamental impacts on the game, and I don't think they ever fully playtested and really absorbed the consequences of that choice. Because it has profound impact upon the game, because everything in the original balancing, and let's face it, 40k was never balanced, and 30k being an offshoot of 7th edition 40k will suffer from those same issues. But one of the things that had sort of found equilibrium was in that balance of the amount of distance you can cover over time in a game of Warhammer 40,000. So to upend that, when you haven't fixed the other things that were wrong, which is namely unit-to-unit peer balance and points values and the interactions of special rules, means that you've just made the game inherently more unbalanced, and this is what's leading to issues in this edition. And then you throw the extra caveat in there of, hey, we've added reactions now. All of these things combined together is going to have a huge impact on the game. And to not want to come in and change anything that's written in these physical black books, that speaks to a lot of it, because most of the FAQs that we're seeing on these books are just, they're questions. They're frequently asked questions. And I know people will defend it. They'll say, well, these must be the questions that are getting asked the most. I don't think they are. I think they're the questions that are easy. Because easy questions where you can just give yes, no, you don't have to explain it any further than that. And it's just a quick clarification for people who don't have basic reading comprehension skills, because let's face it, that's what a lot of the issues here are. Those are the kind of questions that they're gravitating towards. You can't tell me that, and I know this, that they are not getting far better feedback about far greater problems, because I know plenty of people who talk person to person with the staff at the company and know them quite well. And even they will explain, and the staff themselves behind the scenes will admit, we know that something is a problem. They're not interested in fixing it, right? And I know it's really hard for me, just a blowhard, just a person with an opinion on the internet, to really communicate the depths of these issues to you guys who are watching these videos. But if there's no interest in there, because, and I'm not saying it's the writers where there's no interest is, I really want to stress that point. But if there's no interest in there in fixing it, what are we paying for the product, you know? Why not just pirate the rules at that point? Because that is the unwritten agreement, is if you don't provide value for the product, I don't need to, you know, I'm not entitled to the product, but I mean, you're not creating a product that's doing what it's supposed to do, which is a functioning game that fulfills all of the criteria of a balanced and functioning system. And that's the sad reality of it. I don't want to condone piracy. I want to support the company. That's why I'm still hanging around, because I believe that by creating my content, somehow I can influence and affect some positive change to make them improve their business practices. And that's better for me, because if they're a successful company, I get to be a successful YouTuber, I guess you could say. And look, at the end of the day, if they stop making mistakes and start making a really, really good game system, and the models that come out are just fantastic, and their selection of what they want to release is on point, I get to be like Thanos at the end of Infinity War, and I get to just sit down, you know, on my property and just eat a piece of fruit, and I just get to relax. You know, perfect ideal world for me. But as so long as this approach is taking place that I'm seeing throughout these FAQs of, well, you know, we'll FAQ the PDF documents, but we're not touching anything we put into hard print. Well, what's the point of doing anything? You know, you're fixing, you're not fully fixing the PDF documents, but at least you're trying there. It seems, even if you're doing a bad job of it. But if you're only fixing that part of the problem, you still got a whole nother problem in those printed books, and that's where the worst problems lie. Like, you had the options with Legacies of the Age of Darkness to fix something like Atramentar, because Atramentar are busted for the worse, really. I feel bad for Night Lords players who overall have a very, very strong Legion, like a top 3 Legion. They really do. The Night Lords are super powerful in Heresy 2.0. But the Atramentar are like the fan favorite unit for Night Lords. You know, everyone talks about it because they've been built up in a lot of books. And when they got these units, they suck. They're just another Terminator unit with a Night Lord's coat of paint over the top of them. And people made it very, very, very loud and clear. They fired off emails. I know this because people send me screenshots of, this is the email I sent to Games Workshop. Which, I'm fine with you doing that, you know. They sent emails to Games Workshop. They spoke to people developing the game. They wrote in comments all over Facebook and YouTube and other social media sites, you know, Instagram, whatever it might be, how disappointed they were with that unit. But the developers didn't change it. Now, am I saying that developers should change every little thing because us, the fans, we like to whinge? No. There needs to be a balance in there. But just completely contemptuously ignoring probably also not a healthy way to deal with the issue. There seems to be a degree of, well, I'm the writer and therefore I know better than you coming out of the company, which is, frankly, you don't. I know more than many of you writers, and that's because I've been playing the game longer than many of you writers, and there are a great many people who know more than me, a lot more than me, about the game, and they would do a better job than you as well. So bottle up the pride and the ego and just do the best job that can be done, even if that means taking on feedback from others. I know it sounds a bit egotistical, but that's the way it is. Vicarious Heavy Tank Squadron has had the range changes on the Battle Cannon and Vanquish Cannon included. It's fine. Solar Auxilia Stormblade. Why is this the cost of a Legion Stormblade? Your Ballistic Skill 3. You've gone from hitting things on 4+ with your weapons to hitting on... from hitting on 3+ to hitting on 4+. It's a significant nerf. Instead of 2/3 of your shots hitting, only 50% of your shots will hit now. Why is it the same points? It shouldn't be. That's bad. And, yep. Okay, we're seeing the same thing repeating down the line. This is people not taking notice of the system around them and understanding. And Blast and Templates suck. This unit sucks. Just accept it. Why? It shouldn't be more efficient to just bring, 4 Leman Russes with Vanquishers than to bring, a Storm Sword or something. Just, what's the point of the super heavy vehicle if it's worse than just taking regular vehicles? Alright. Imperialis Militia. What have we got in here? Changes. Alright, they've changed Void Jumpers. All models in Imperialis Militia Reconnaissance Squad may upgrade to Void Jumpers for 20 points a unit. When you upgrade to Void Jumpers, you have Militia Jetpacks and replace the shotgun with 2 las pistols or 2 auto pistols. Any Disciplined Masters, Militia Medicae, or others assigned to the squad before deployment, but not models that joined you in, by means of the independent character rule, may be given Militia Jetpacks for no additional cost. Model with a Militia Jetpack may not be given any weapon with the heavy type. Militia Recon Squads are one of your best sources of pinning weapons. Where are you? Because they could upgrade to sniper rifles, which are not as good as Nemesis, but those sniper rifles are a heavy weapon. I'll double check that right down the bottom here. Auto weapons or bolt weapons will be auto weapons. Sniper rifle, heavy one, rending. So you've traded the ability to pin and rend and precision shot characters for the ability to move quicker on the battlefield with a unit that doesn't want to get anywhere near things like Astartes, because bolt guns just, you don't get a save against. They'll just instant death you. And you lose shotguns as well, which are another great weapon. You've swapped it for 2 pistols. Like, and you, here's the thing, right? In previous editions, Guardsmen could go toe-to-toe Marines in close combat because you could throw so many attacks at them that you could just overwhelm them with sheer weight of numbers. But when you're weapon skill 3 in addition, where the minimum weapon skill, really, the minimum barrier for close combat is weapon skill 4. And that is the minimum barrier for close combat. You're hitting on 5s. So if you charge 20 of these guys in, they get the charge on a squad of 10 Marines, for example, right? Let's do the maths here. So 20 guys is going to be 60 attacks. That means 20 hits. Of the 20 hits, with the 60 attacks, going up against a toughness of 4 with a strength of 3, that means that on average, and this is assuming none of you died in Overwatch, none of you died to the Marine Superior Initiative or anything like that. So your full 20 guys got to attack. Okay? So of the 20 hits, about 2/3 of those are going to be discarded for wounding purposes. So you're going to wound 6 to 7 wounds. And of that, the Marines on average will fail 2. And this is your best case scenario, don't forget. Whereas, let's see, if I look in the Big Book of British Smiles, and of course by that I mean the Liber Astartes, and I go to my weapons section. Bear with me, because nothing's in a, logical layout. But I go to the close combat weapons section, and I go to my basic weapons, let's say chainswords and things like that. Well, they're going to be hitting you on 3s, and they're going to be wounding you on 3s, and they're going to be re-rolling to wound as well, on top of all of that. So that's not going to go very, very great for you, is it now? And on top of those sort of weapons, don't forget that we do have things like the chain bayonets and such floating around this edition as well. So you can get tickled by those, because that will be good for you. So yeah, a lot of good things happening in there. Let's just say that killing 2 Marines out of 10 is not ideal, because yeah, they probably pumped half your squad with bolt gun rounds before you even got your guys in there. And I mean, you're gonna have 10 in the squad anyway. 20 is excessive as an example, but yeah, pointless units. And that appears to be the only change they've made in here. There is no other pink in this document, which there are quite a few things. Let's just pick one example out, because again, people say, oh, well, there are no issues. Let's pick one thing. Let's pick Militia Beastmasters. Here we go. This is a fantastic option. Let's pick this one. So, here we have a unit that is basic militia dudes, las pistols and auto pistols, and they get to buy beasts. Okay, you can buy a beast for every handler, essentially. Mastiff, Raptor, Felidae, or Cayman. Well, let's look at what the special rules for these units are. Well, the unit moves 6, right? So again, movement 6 being the default movement value. 8, 8, and 7. Well, if you can't use the movement value because this unit has to retain coherency, so apart from slightly spreading yourself out further on the table potentially, and catching the back half of the unit up to the front half, if you put all the beast handlers out the front, the additional unit is wasted. So you can pretty much discount Raptor, Felidae, and Mastiff straight away out of this list. What about special rules? Well, they're light and skirmish on the Mastiff, the Raptor, and the Felidae, but the infantry handlers do not have the light special rule. So if they don't all have it, no one has it. What about the other special rules? Okay, well, the Mastiff, Felidae, and Raptor have fleet of 1. Doesn't confer to the rest of the units. The militia handlers won't have it. Furious Charge, good for the Mastiff, does nothing for the handler because it doesn't confer to them. Rage on the Felidae, doesn't do anything for the handler, only confers to them. Feel no pain on the Cayman, doesn't do anything for the handler, only confers to them, but that does do a significant increase in the survivability of the unit, and it's not just on the charge, it is all throughout the game, so any shots that land on those Cayman, okay, that's handy. And Shrouded 4+, Raptors only. Well, again, unit doesn't have the Shrouded rule, so pointless. So at the end of all of this, you go, there is one here that has stats that movement speed is identical to handlers, so they are matched correctly. And their special rule is not negated by being in a unit of handlers, which is the Feel No Pain will still apply to each individual Cayman, regardless of the wounds inflicted on the handlers. The Cayman also has a higher strength and toughness, which are very advantageous in this edition, as opposed to a low strength and toughness like the Raptor, the Felidae, and to a degree the Mastiff. The Cayman has additional wounds. It has the same initiative as the handlers. Because, I mean, the Felidae, yep, cool, they're initiative 5. You're still hitting Marines on 4s, and you're still wounding them on 5s, and you don't have any, like, rending or anything like that. So, that's not very helpful that you're striking first. So, and it's got a 5+ save on the Cayman. The Raptor has no save. The Felidae has a 6+ save. So the Cayman is still going to... At least they can survive a bolt gun round with Feel No Pain, which is more than can be said for the rest. So essentially, the only usable model in the unit is the Cayman. So why is this not being FAQ'd? It needs to have a rule that says something like the Beastmasters, gain the special rules and unit subtypes of the unit they joined. Like they're just so in harmony with the units that they work with and have developed tactics that work in conjunction with them, right? That would change up the dynamic, because that would mean, okay, some of these other types have become more useful. Like if your militia beastmasters start gaining some of the stats of their war beasts, okay, now we're talking. So this is the prime example of the sort of unit that needs an FAQ. Another one, now I know this is going to upset people. It upsets me on a level that I'll bring this up, but let me go down. The Melkador and the Russ, okay? So the Melkador here, you can take as your main front-mounted weapon the Vanquisher Battle Cannon. All right, 10-point upgrade. And that's replacing your horrible, horrible, horrible Battle Cannon. Now, the Vanquisher has 50% more range than the Gravis Las Cannon, which is the other option. It has the same strength. It has the same AP, but he's brutal too. Oh, and the same number of shots, by the way. He's brutal too. So, and armor bane. So, incredibly powerful weapon. Why are they the same points? But then you go down one. The Leman Russ, it's a Vanquisher Battle Cannon with a coaxial autocannon, and it's only 5 points. Well, hang on. How come a Battle Cannon one versus the other? Because they're both vehicle, they're both third line, right? What's going on here? Well, what's happening is the Vanquisher Battle Cannon with the coaxial autocannon, if you roll a hit with the autocannon, it essentially twin links the Vanquisher. So the Leman Russ in the militia is better than both the Solar Leman Russ, and it is better than the Melkador, which is a heavier, used to be a super heavy vehicle, in the slot above it, and it does it for far, far cheaper. So now you have to ask a question, and these can come in squadrons, of how come you can't do that with the Melkador? Why is the Melkador going to see play when you can spend 65 points less and 70 by the time you've done all the upgrades on both vehicles to have that Vanquisher? It's an amazing weapon. 125 points, and you're throwing out, you're firing Thunderhammers across the table at 125 points. It's phenomenally good. And having played them, it's super effective. Now, to add an extra level of what the hell to this, you can have the Gravis Autocannon, which is a 3 shots, 48-inch range, strength 7, AP 4 weapon, and twin linked. You can have the turret-mounted Gravis Autocannon, or for 5 points more, you get an autocannon and the Vanquisher. So you lose 1 shot and you lose the twin linked on the autocannon. But you've gained the 2 Vanquisher shots, which are far stronger and scarier than a Gravis autocannon. So what do you think this encourages in players? And I've played the list, and at 1,000, 1,200 points, this is one of the most terrifying armies you can play against. Play against someone who's taking militia, who's just spamming Leman Russes with Vanquishers. And I didn't even make all 8 of my Russes with Vanquishers. I made 6 of them with Vanquishers. And they were hosing Dreadnoughts every turn. Like, it was, I could point just 4 of these guys at a Contemptor Dreadnought and kill a Contemptor. And everyone knows how broken they are, and not FAQ'd, this edition. So these are the sort of issues we're seeing. And I think the militia PDF here is one of the better PDFs in the game. And in fact, this one unit, Imperialis Militia Leman Russ, is literally holding up the entire militia list on its shoulders right now. It is carrying the list because the list is bad. Okay? And one of the other things we notice in here is we've done Mechanicum and Imperium. They have not fixed things in here like Telemon. The Teletubby Dreadnought, that's the Custodes giant, bigger than a Leviathan Dreadnought. Those fists on it are not brutal. The Space Marine Gravis Power Fists on a Contemptor Dreadnought are brutal 3. Now, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of making Custodes constantly more and more powerful, but let's face it here, they probably should be a far bit more powerful, or a fair bit more powerful, far and above the Space Marines. So why is it that they're just so much weaker in aspects like that? It doesn't make any sense. Now, again, is that because it's printed in a black book and you don't want to touch a black book? I don't know. But you can see, guys, just some of the issues in here. And there are many, many rules like this. I spoke about in the previous video I just recorded with the Storm Durkin, how you can take a Storm Bird and crack it full of like a Storm Eagle and then a Storm Eagle full of units. And that's all just considered to be a legitimate unit. And that doesn't get FAQ'd, okay? It's stuff like that people are concerned about this edition, from what I've been exposed to. Now, I'll throw that caveat in there because I live in Australia. I talk to people from all around the world, but, I'm going to have a certain echo chamber of audience who knows my work and shares similar opinions to me, and that's why they keep coming back. And therefore, the feedback they give me is probably going to be in line with my own, versus those who despise me, play in a completely different meta, and don't believe in anything that I stand for. Those who, protect the company, for example, apologize on behalf of the corporation. Those idiots. Yeah, smart move that. But yeah, I'm not going to have all of the answers, but I will always do my best and call it how I see it, and this is how I see it. We have a fundamental issue here where, you can't tell me that the Heresy team is just so flat out overworked, releasing their one book every 6 months, which includes 12 new pages, that they don't have time to sit down and put out a good FAQ. Because let's face it, you've got a whole community out here of guys, whether it's Mournival, whether it's Panoptica, who've done big comprehensive FAQs of the system, and people are pretty happy with it. And the company could go in and pick and choose like a buffet from those FAQs that have been written by the fans. They're already written. You don't have to do any work here. Pick and choose the answers they like and print them. They choose not to, right? So even if they were time sensitive, they could basically plagiarize and reword it slightly, throw it into an AI prompt, whatever, and get the answers they need. They're choosing not to. And the fact that they're choosing not to says either that the writers are incredibly lazy individuals who don't deserve the employment they have, or that the management is holding them back. And they may say, I'll stop myself right there, because that sounds really, really harsh to say when I say, don't deserve the employment. You got to understand, I've been a manager of a multi-million-dollar company. And when people don't perform, the unfortunate reality is you have to take action. And that action can include things up to firing. You don't start at that point, okay? You have to try and counsel, and you try and improve them first. This is, well, it's not technically what you have to do, but it's the approach I choose to take, is to try and improve the person, because their mistakes start with you as the manager in how you manage them. So if I have an employee who's not up to snuff, I don't just pull them into my office and scream and yell at them. I pull them in, have a chat, and a friendly chat too. Don't make them feel pressure, casual chat. I don't sit them on one side of the desk, I sit on the other and say, right, tell me about what's going on. I just, pull them in, have a coffee. Hey, just thought I'd come bring you in, have a chat, just off the books. You want to go for a walk, whatever it might be, right? Nice, reduce the amount of tense air in the room, as it were. And just say, what can I do to help you out better in the workplace, Because I don't think you're achieving what you're capable of achieving. And I think it's my job as the manager to help you perform your job better. So what can I do to help you out? Okay, that was my management style. And so I look at this company and I go, well, if that has been tried and this is what they're producing, bang, 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 fired, fired, fired. Just start laying off people. But I think they really do need to be given that chance. And this is why I didn't leak the original PDFs that came out for the system, is I thought, let's give them that chance. Give them that chance to go away with what they've got already and improve it. And they haven't. They just keep producing. It feels like the books that come out of Games Workshop Forge World are like the assessment that a student would write when they are late for an assignment and they need to crank it out the night before. That's what it feels like. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm back with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching this sad pair of videos, which has just completely killed my no negativity vibe. But I've been trying so hard. I really have. You know, I just want to build and paint models. I've been doing all these conversions of like Iron Hands and stuff, and it's been so much fun. I've been designing new weapons for them because there are weapons in the game that don't have physical models. So I was like sculpting these digital weapons, and I've been doing more and more stuff for my Adamus line of militia stand-ins. Maybe I'll do a video on that soon. And I've been having so much fun with like that part of the hobby, that side of the hobby. And then I just keep getting dragged back into the reality of, you know, we've paid for this game and we expect the writers to do just a cracking hot job of it, and they just are not. And it's really upsetting. As in, it's upsetting to my vibe. You know, instead of me being able to focus my attention on what I really want to be, which is like, hey guys, here's the conversions I made. You know, I get to do that, but I only get to do it on Instagram. So if you do check us out, The Outer Circle, one word, on Instagram, you'll find my stuff. You can go in there and see the sort of hobby I'm doing. That's where my head's at, where I want to be at in my hobby. And like I say, one day, The Outer Circle will be a 100 subscriber page because you've all left, and I'll just be putting out model content on here because the Games Workshop will have either died or fixed itself. But until that day, we've got to live with the occasional salt. I do apologise. That's reality. See you on the next episode.